Hello, people. Guess who's back? Back again. Guess who's back? We're back again to be here to spit facts. Jeez. Anyway, guys, hey guys, welcome back. It's episode number 12 of the Spittin Fax podcast. As mentioned before, we are back. We are here. We are excited. Joey, how are you?
I'm doing good. A lot has happened since we've last talked about hockey, which is our big subject for the day. The Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. Congratulations to them. It was a great moment to see them celebrating. They just had a really good season. They were arguably the best team of the whole regular season. So it's just great to see them win it. And I know that's what I was rooting for and what I thought was going to happen.
No, you were right. You were right. There was talk. I understand there was some episode trouble with that specific episode we had recorded, but Joey had picked the Avalanche. I picked the Lightning to win the cup. It was a very back and forth talk about between us. It almost broke our friendship apart. The, a complete lie, but no, it was very good, very great series. I was excited to see it. I am happy the Avalanche won. The past 5 years, they've been a dominant team in the regular season and the playoff stage, they lost in the second round every year. But now they're able to get the job done. And I'm happy they're able to win the cup. They were a really good team. It's happy to see a lot of those guys get their first ring. But now we hit the reset button. Every team is back into the mix. There is no one team right now that looks definite. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. A lot of signings, a lot of impactful trades in the sports world in general. I have not seen these many big time signings and trades in a long, long time. So I know I'm very excited to get started and to dive right into it. But so, what other team? What better team to start off with than our Pittsburgh Penguins? Joey, are you ready? Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm very ready. The Penguins have made a big impact this offseason. Going into the season, you knew this was Malkin's last year on the contract. You knew this was Letang's last year on the contract. And as a Pens fan, you got to think, man, you want to bring them both back. They've both been Pens for their whole life, but do we really have the money to bring them back and try and bring Rust back? It's just it was a really tough thing to do, and I know a lot of people are doubting it. You got to pick one. Who do you pick? But I'm really happy they got them both back, both impact players. Chris Letang coming off one of the better seasons of his career. They're both getting up there in age, but I'm really happy to see them both back. It's what they needed to do, so I'm really happy to see them back, and hopefully they finish their career here.
Exactly. For Letang, that is looking like the case. They signed Chris Letang to a 6 year, $36.6 million deal. He is high thirties, so this is probably one of the last contracts he's going to have, if not the last. It was the move I felt the Penguins needed to make. If you had to pick one, I went the Letang route of it. However, they were able to do something that not me, not a lot of people thought was being able to get done, and that's sign both men, and it was a lot of work to get Evgeny back to the team as well. He signed a 4 year, $24.4 million deal. It was very back and forth. He was expected to walk to free agency for the first time in his career, and then a day before he was supposed to head out to free agency, he was re-signs with the team, and that's solely thankful for, and that's solely responsible. We can agree before was because of Sidney Crosby coming out, helping out Gino. He'll head him. He'll come back to the black and gold. So I also feel like maybe a lot of signings have been going on. So these two other signings the Penguins made may get shuffled into the mix. But I want to just reiterate: Brian Rust just signed this year a 6 year, $30.75 million deal with the Pens, and are the one of the only trades we made during early when trading was before free agency and stuff closed in March for the NHL season was Rickard Rakell. We were able to re-sign him to a new contract, a 6 year, $30 million deal to stay with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know he was impactful. If he probably wasn't dealing with that injury during the playoffs, we would have seen more of him. There could have been maybe some better highlights or whatnot to come with that. But that is a part of the excitement with when you re-sign a exciting player in Rickard Rakell. I know those were two signings I really liked as well. Joey, what's your opinion on those?
Yeah, I agree. Brian Rust was a dominant presence. He was just all over the place. He was scoring a lot of goals. He had 24 goals in 60 games this year, and 34 assists in 60 games as well. Him just on that line with Crosby is just so dominant. And I agree with Rickard Rakell. It was a great sign to bring him back. I think that if injuries hadn't been a problem, he plays all year. He establishes himself as that main second line he signs. And I'm very impressed with what the Pens have been able to do this offseason. Also bringing back Casey DeSmith. It's just they've been spending the money and it's showing. And I think that bringing back some of these older players, I think could elongate Crosby's career. Like, I think that having Letang there for 6 more seasons is going to keep Crosby there for hopefully 6 more seasons, because there were some question marks. How long is he really going to keep playing? Is he really going to be able to stay at this pace? And so I think that keeping them with the team for a longer amount of time will help him stay.
I agree. There was a lot of cap space to be divvied up for these players, and it was going to be interesting how the Penguins were going to handle these players and how they were going to let these signings go. And so I feel something else worth noting to mention is the 2 other acquisitions the Penguins made between the Canadiens and the Devils. So on July 16th, the Penguins traded away John Marino with a 2023 third-round pick. In return, we got what was it? Ty Smith, right? Ty Smith.
Ty Smith in the third.
Ty Smith in the third. Oh, we gave John Marino. We got the third. I apologize. And then later that day, we traded Mike Matheson, another defenseman, and we were able to get Jeff Petrie, another great defender out of Montreal, and a fourth as well. So it's very exciting to see maybe this defensive upgrade. I understand John Marino's ceiling is currently going up, and he's a very talented player, so he was worth the trade. Devils are going to have both teams won that trade. There's no doubt about it. I'm very interested to see how Petrie's going to handle out. Petrie is getting older, so his ceiling may not be as high, and his time in the NHL is kind of coming up as well. However, the Penguins right now need defense. It's been proven throughout the New York series, throughout time and time again through the past few regular seasons. It's been something noteworthy that I felt they needed to address, which is mainly the reason why I wanted them to keep Letang over Malkin if they had to choose just one player. So I was happy with those signings. Joey, what's your opinion on those?
Yeah, I think that we definitely won the Mike Matheson trade. Mike Matheson is a really, really good defender, but getting a veteran guy like Jeff Petrie, a big hitter, very, very physical guy, I think that we win that trade. I think that it clears up some cap space. We were going to really have to pay Mike Matheson in the upcoming years. I'm really, really happy with this trade. And I think the John Marino trade, it stinks. It's a big loss. He's really good this year. I really like John Marino, but I think that we win this trade too. We get Ty Smith, who's a young guy who's going to be around for a little bit, and again clearing up cap space for guys that we're going to have to pay, especially since we just paid Malkin, Letang, and Rust and Rickard Rakell. I think that we win this trade because we need to clear up cap space, and we got stuff back instead of just losing them to free.
The Penguins currently they had a lot of cap space coming in, and right now that cap space is dwindling very, very, very down. Like we don't have much. It's a very slim space right now, but I will give credit. They are making the right moves right now, and I'm excited to see how everything handles out for the Penguins coming up here. But it's not just the Penguins that are having impactful trades and signings. First, we'll hit the signing side of it before we start talking about the trades. But real quick here, let's transition over to what I feel are the most impactful signings, but also Joey will talk about his as well. 3 of the most impactful signings, all happening in July. Who said 4th of July was just the most important day in July? This week right now is very interesting. So the Nashville Predators were able to sign their best player, no question. They were able to get him to a new contract, 8 years, $68 million to Philip Forsberg. Los Angeles is able to get a key defenseman back for long periods of time. Adrian Kempe, he's going to be involved. He was involved a lot with their success, especially this year heading into the playoffs. And then Joey's, I can arguably say from my angle, Joey's most moment so far was when Johnny Gaudreau signs with the Columbus Blue Jackets to a 7-year, $68 million deal. It's very, very like I said, there are a lot of trades, a lot of big names going different places. Joey, what's your take so far?
Oh, this Johnny Gaudreau trade was my favorite sign by far. I love Johnny Gaudreau as a player. He's just so fun. He's young. He's fast. He's going to be around a while. As you can see, a 7-year deal there. And just to go to Columbus is just he said in an interview that's where he wanted to be. He turned down money from Calgary to get out of there. It's just he is such a young, fast player. So fun to watch him play. And I love him going to Columbus. Columbus also re-signing Patrick Laine, which I think is another great re-sign. I think that the two of them together can be a really dominant force. They, of course, lost Bjorkstrand to Seattle, but I think that that's okay because you are going to have to pay him also, and paying Laine and paying Gaudreau, definitely the way to go. I really, really love this sign. Another sign I really love is Claude Giroux to Ottawa. I think that he's going to be a force there. Ottawa is rebuilding very, very quickly. They are bringing everybody in. Of course, we'll talk about in a little bit how they brought in Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, losing Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, but man, they are just win now mode, and they are bringing some stars into play.
Yeah, I agree. This is very, very interesting NHL offseason so far. I know last season we had nothing like this. It was nothing like it, including the like NFL and MLB. There's a lot of guys going different places, and this makes it a lot more exciting and a lot more interesting. But so I would have had this graphic up, and I would have made one if not for just this trade just happening. But let's take a minute and talk about this Matthew Tkachuk trade. So Matt Tkachuk gets offered a lot of money, like Johnny Gaudreau, to stay with Calgary. They trade away Johnny Gaudreau, which means Matt Tkachuk wants out too. This is going to affect the morale of the team. Like, oh crap, this is changing some things. So a day and a half goes by of just talks and rumors, and all of a sudden, yesterday, we got the official word came out that they're sending Matt Tkachuk down to Florida, and Florida's giving away of a lot of key aspects to this team. And my favorite player on Florida, who I thought was the most impactful man, who was second place in points last year. His name's Jonathan Huberdeau. He's heading up to Calgary. I think Calgary's getting a very good player in Jonathan Huberdeau. Joey, do you want to break this down a little bit more?
Yeah, Jonathan Huberdeau. When I saw a list of possible trade possibilities after Matthew Tkachuk turned down the extension with Calgary. In Florida was on that list, but it was not them giving up Jonathan Huberdeau. He's their captain. He's been there for a long time. He's the face of that franchise at the moment. But I think that still getting Matthew Tkachuk, they signed him $76 million for 8 years. That's an amazing sign. I think that I don't know. It's just incredible because you see what Jonathan Huberdeau did last year, and Calgary is also getting a steal out of this trade because they're not going to have to pay Tkachuk $76 million, but they're going to get Huberdeau and Weegar, who are both solid players. So I don't know. I think both sides win this trade. Florida gets their superstar. They're in win now mode. They can make cup runs soon. They're doing really, really well. So they get their superstar, and then Calgary builds more depth for the upcoming years. They're selling away. I think that Jonathan Huberdeau and Elias Lindholm as your centers on the first and second line is the best center combination in the league right now because of that. So I don't know. This trade is really interesting to me. Both teams getting a lot out of it.
I know. It's in both teams, ironically enough, had disappointing playoff runs. Calgary looked promising in the first round. Florida did too, and then the second round, these teams just fell apart. And it'll be interesting to see how they all handle it. Florida, of course, is losing Claude Giroux, and along within this trade, just alone, Huberdeau, Weegar, and Schwind. All three players are very impactful, mainly Huberdeau. But Florida is getting a great guy in Matt Tkachuk, along with their kid, a future fifth-round pick in 2025, conditional. So it depends on how they play out, or how Calgary plays in 2025 in order for them to get that pick. And then, however, Florida plays in 2025 is going to depend what first-round pick Calgary gets. So it's always interesting to see how they handle these draft picks, because draft picks are not just used to pick players. They can be used as leverage towards a trade or a signing or whatever they got to do to get rid of them, whether they deal them or spend them. So, I think it's going to be interesting. Both teams have a lot to prove right now because Florida's losing a lot of key guys, and Calgary lost two of their best players, arguably their best two players. On that side of the ice. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out. I know Johnny Gaudreau's coming off of a career year last year, so he has a lot. He doesn't have anything to prove, but he's a lot to work with down there in Columbus as they're rebuilding as well. I agree with you. Patrick Laine down there is going to help, I think, as well. Both teams played up in Canada. They played each other, and now they get to play together. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see what goes on down there and how everything gets handled out. Joey, is there any other free agency signings, any worth note acquisitions you feel are worth noting before we head into any trade talk?
Yes, I do. I think that Vincent Trocheck to the Rangers is a
Oh,
scary move if you're in the Metropolitan
I
Division.
love that you brought that
Vincent
up.
Trocheck is proven. He's just a super good player. You saw how he did with Carolina last year. He really helped that team make a good run. And they, of course, went out to New York in the playoffs. And so to add another key weapon like that is just a really, really good sign by the Rangers. They are getting really close. If Shesterkin really turns out to or if he can do what he did this year, then he is a player to definitely watch, and he can help the Rangers make that extra step, get to a final. I think they'll get to a final in the next couple of years if they keep going on this path. So I think Trocheck is really going to help that. He's a veteran guy on a really young team. It can help bring experience to them in the playoffs. This is a scary sign if you're in the Metropolitan Division.
It's the Carolina Hurricanes have been creating quite the storm of trades. Carolina, they gave up Vincent Trocheck, and you lose Nito Niederreiter. However,
Mm-hmm.
I'll name you three guys they were able to acquire: Max Pacioretty, long-time captain on the Canadiens, impactful player on Vegas when he wasn't hurt, and now he's here in Carolina. Carolina also gets defenseman Brett Burns, all-star. He's one of the best defensemen in the entire NHL. He has one of the best
He's
beards in the entire
fantastic.
NHL. I think he's going to be a really good acquisition down there. And then obviously they got Carolina also got Dylan Conklin as well with the Vegas Golden Knights trade. And so yeah, Carolina loses a few guys, but this is a key part of we lose some talented guys, but we're getting some talented guys back. All of them may be a tad older in towards like the mid to end parts of their career, but Carolina has proven that maybe the young strategy isn't just working out for them. It hasn't worked out the past 2-3 years. Let's add a few vet guys in here and get rolling. So I agree with you. I think that's an impactful trade. The Rangers is going to be interesting because Rangers traded away Alexander Georgiev to the Colorado Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champions. They traded him away for 3 draft picks, so I think that's going to be important to mention as well. Another trade I feel like I wanted to talk about, and I think it's going to be important for Ottawa right now, is the Alex DeBrincat trade heading over to Ottawa, as mentioned before. And in return, the Blackhawks get a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. The first and second round were used to this year's draft. We'll double check those in a little bit on the players that they selected. However, Alex DeBrincat is the big name in Chicago, along with Kirby Dach. Both men are shipping out of Chicago, heading over to Ottawa. Like Eddie Olczyk, they are out of here. It'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for this trade as well. I'm excited to see what becomes of it for each team, to be honest, because DeBrincat, like I said, has a lot of talent. He's a young player, and Chicago's in much need of a rebuild and in much need of new players and a restart. So it'll be nice to see how this is all going to handle out.
Yeah, Alex DeBrincat. He's a young guy. He had 41 goals last year and 37 assists. So he's averaging half a goal per game last year, which is crazy. He's doing it with not a lot of talent behind him. Chicago really wasn't very impressive last year. And this is the second season that he's reached 41 goals with Chicago. In the third season that he's reached over 30. He's a goal scorer. He's quick. I think that Ottawa stole this trade. I think that Chicago could have gotten a lot more from him. And I'm really surprised at how cheap they got him. They did give a lot away, but for a young generational talent like this, they really killed that trade.
I agree. It was arguably, to be honest, it was one of my favorite trades, and a lot of trades went down between of these teams. Chicago was getting a lot of draft picks. They gave up a few as well, but they were pulling a Seattle and getting a lot of draft picks because they need to focus on the future. Speaking of Seattle, the second most recent trade between Seattle and Columbus, as we mentioned before, Columbus gives up Oliver Bjorkstrand in return. They give up a third-round pick in 2023 and a fourth-round pick in 2023 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think Columbus again. We've been saying it over and over again. You lose a good talent, but at the same time, in this case, you're getting potential in right back at you, and that's what Columbus needs to focus on is the future. And they locked that down by getting Line and Gaudreau, as we mentioned before.
I think this trade is really good for them, and they kind of did something that Carolina did. So I don't think they were going to sign Oliver Bjorkstrand anyways because of bringing in Line again and bringing Gaudreau, really having to pay them. So I think Bjorkstrand was going to probably go into free agency and sign with someone. So the fact that Columbus got 2 picks out of that is really impressive, and Carolina did the same thing. Carolina had Tony DeAngelo, who really stepped up in the playoffs this year for Carolina. He was really a big hitter, aggressive guy. And Carolina basically came out and said that they're not going to re-sign him. But before he went into free agency, they ended up trading him away, and they got 3 draft picks from Philly. So you got picks back when you didn't have the intent to sign him back. So I think both these teams really stole those trades. But on the other hand, Bjorkstrand is a really, really fantastic player. Seattle's getting a really talented young guy. So I think Seattle still does win this, or doesn't necessarily lose this trade. They got a good player, and they didn't give up that much for him. But Columbus wasn't going to have him back anyway. So for them to get picks out of it is a win for them.
Seattle spent a lot of the end of their regular season shipping guys away and collecting picks. So, like I mentioned before, draft picks can be used to pick guys, but they can also be used to help trade guys and ship guys off and get stuff in return. I feel like there's two other minor trades. These aren't impactful, but 2 potentially all-star goaltenders, in my opinion, between
I was just going to bring that up.
Ville Husso from the St. Louis Blues gets shipped off to Detroit, and in return, Detroit gives up only a third-round pick for Ville Husso. I think for Detroit, that's a complete bargain. You didn't have to give up anything too impactful, and in return, you get a very good goaltender, one that was going to hit free agency at the end of the season. And now Alex Nedeljkovic has a great backup and potentially competition towards his starting job because Ville Husso proved his importance throughout the entire playoffs whenever they needed him to step up when Jordan Binnington was facing that knee injury.
And on the other side of that, Jordan Binnington is still going to be your starter, or was going to be their starter, still really good. So you get a pick back for him for your backup goaltender. So I think that it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and for the second straight season, Vitek Vanacek is out of Washington. He's leaving. Although last season Seattle gave him right back to Washington after their expansion draft, but Vitek Vanacek this time is heading over to New Jersey along with a 2nd-round pick, and in return Washington gets a 2nd and a 3rd for their goaltender. I feel like Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov were a really great tandem goaltending duo in the entire NHL. Now they're broken up. I know Samsonov left Washington. I can't name off the top of my head where he went. But I can tell you Vitek Vanacek is also gone as well. So that's going to be something that's noteworthy. What's the goaltending situation going to be like down in Washington? How are they going to handle everything that's going on? And especially because we know no player besides Alexander Ovechkin is safe, really, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens.
I
think that Washington stole this trade. Washington stole this trade because they went out and signed Darcy Kemper.
Oh, they did. Oh, that's right. They did. They did sign Darcy.
So I think they steal this trade because, yes, they lose a good duo in Samsonov. Samsonov went to Toronto also.
Okay.
But
yeah, Toronto.
Losing Samsonov and Vanacek, but Darcy Kemper is going to be their starter, and he is a good starter. So I think the fact that they got picks out of this, I think they knew that they were going to go out and get him. So I think that Darcy Kemper, although you don't have the duo like you had last year, you've still got a good starting goalie.
It's going to be interesting. I say this a lot with a lot of the trades and free agency signing talk that we have. The interesting word, but the potential is so high. The roof for anything to happen is so high in the NHL because, well, first of all, the storm's rolling through, but second of all, it's anything could happen with hockey. It's an individual team sport. You can have an absolutely along with football, you can have an absolutely beyond stud player, all-star, Pro Bowl worthy, but if they're on a crappy team, their legacy or their success gets dimmed down a bit because you're on a crappy team and you're on a rebuilding team or whatnot. So, I'm hoping that Ville Husso works out in Detroit. I'm hoping Vitek Vanacek is able to give something back because I know the Devils lost Scott at Wedgwood down to my Dallas Stars down there as he's a backup goaltender down there now. So a lot of goaltender moves. Darcy Kemper, in case you forgot, he won the Stanley Cup, and he was a very big reason the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. And if you, for some reason, you didn't know that, I guess you're in the wrong spot. But it'll be exciting to see how Washington handles that. How they're getting back they're getting a really good goaltender, and they gave up two pretty good goaltenders for it. So I think that's pretty good.
And I think it's.
No, I was just saying, as my lovely Zoom counter has just reminded us, we got about 8 minutes left. So, Joey, what other trades do you want to get to real quick?
I just want to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs goalies for a second.
I was just going to say that. Go for it.
The way that their goalies have shaken up, so they trade away Peter Mrazek to Chicago and a first-round pick for a second-round pick, which I guess is clearing up cap space because I don't know why you gave away a player and a first for a second, but I don't know. Something's going on there. But you trade away Peter Mrazek. Jack Campbell leaves and signs with Edmonton, which is a fantastic sign by Edmonton. They've got such a young, fast, talented team.
Especially
and what they were missing was the elite goalie to bring that in.
Koskinen's gone out there, too. He left. He's in the – didn't he sign with the Russian league?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Mike Smith.
But you bring in Samsonov, and you trade and you bring in Matt Murray. So you had four goalies, or you had two really good goalies, three good goalies. You lost all three of them and brought in two completely new goalies for your season this year. So I don't know. I think that the Leafs don't win that trade because they lose Jack Campbell, but you bring in Matt Murray, who is less than proven but maybe we can see what he's going to do with a good team because he was good for the Pens, and then he goes and he plays for Ottawa, who at the time was one of the worst teams in the league. So to go back with Toronto and have a good team in front of you, it could be very impactful. Joey, so I just think it's crazy how their goalies have switched up.
Do me a favor real quick. Well, I'll ramble for a second to give you some time, but can you tell me who the Ottawa starting goaltender is? Because if it's Philip Gustafsson, I don't believe there's any noteworthy starting goaltender out in Ottawa. Because I know we were mentioning how Ottawa got Claude Giroux, and they're able to get some other really good guys out there. But can you tell me who the starting goaltender is out in Ottawa? This should be very interesting. I believe it's Gustafsson, I think his name's Gustafsson or something. Like something along those lines.
Oh, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. Keep talking.
All right. I got you. I feel like Matt Murray deserves the title of most interesting NHL career. He wins 2 Stanley Cups as a rookie. He beats out Marc-Andre Fleury for the job in Pittsburgh. They send Fleury out to Vegas for the inaugural draft for their expansion. Then Murray that season plays like absolute dog water. Murray gets sent off and sent to Ottawa. He plays. I swear to God, he played.
Okay, I got it.
He played like 3 games with Ottawa. Literally, he barely was. He did much to little to none impactful. And when he did play, he was playing very, very bad. Not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
He gets put on waivers, and now he's sent over, and no one picks him up, and now he's over to Toronto. So, yeah, Matt Murray deserves the most interesting NHL career award, in my opinion. Now, who's the Ottawa starting goaltender?
So I was looking, and I was ready to be like, oh, it's nobody. What are they going to do? I forgot. They signed Cam Talbot from Minnesota.
Cammy boy from Minnesota.
Or no, they traded him.
So they traded for him.
They got Cam Talbot. They traded the Wild. They got Cam Talbot, and they gave up Philippe Gustafsson.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so
that's why that name was in your head.
I would have been right if they didn't. Okay, so Cam Talbot, I'm not gonna lie to you. I like Cam Talbot a lot more than most of these other goaltenders. He's very reliable in the regular season. It's the postseason where he struggles. But Ottawa's not going to be making it to the postseason right now. They need someone to help hold them over. So
I don't know. Claude Giroux could do that.
Claude Giroux
Claude's
he played really good with Florida. I'll give him that. Florida was I feel like that helped his career a lot. That really pushed him towards getting with a good team. And Ottawa has a good future, a bright future. There's no question. I'm just speaking of right now.
Very young.
Yeah, very, very young team. I think what you got to look out for those Canadian teams up there right now, because as of up till this year, it was a very quiet space up there. No Canadian team was really doing any impact in the NHL. Now a lot of guys are getting sent around, which means you shuffle a few things around, you're going to get a few interesting results. So I'm Joey. I know you're excited. I know I'm excited for this upcoming season. We got less than 100 days already till the NHL comes rolling back around, till we start seeing some preseason hockey. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode and start recording our second episode of the day?
I'm not going to go into stats or anything. Just the last two signs that we didn't end up talking about. Valerie Nichushkin back to Colorado after that incredible playoff. And Andre Palat from Tampa signing with New Jersey. I think that there are a lot of these teams that have been really bad for a long time that they're starting to go up. They're starting to get better and starting to be on the upward trend. So just watch out for that. The Devils, you never know. They've been bad, but they've got Jack Hughes. They got Nico Hischier. They've got young guys that can rise up. So that's it for me. Going to be super fun NHL season. A lot of mixed up players, a lot of guys on different teams. Excited to see how that pans out.
Very exciting. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for tuning in today for today's episode. I understand the scheduling has been quite, as most smart people would say, all over the place. Quite a kerfuffle, if you want to be crazy. But we appreciate the loyalty. We appreciate everyone who's tuning in. This has been an interesting summer so far, scheduling-wise. However, we know in the fall the schedule will become more definite because we'll have more of a laid-out idea of what we're going to be doing. We appreciate the love. I hope everybody enjoys today's episode. If you do, give us a like. If you liked it a lot, subscribe. And if you didn't, then too bad, so sad. Either way,
and if we messed up on anything, put it down in the comments. Let us know where we messed up. Let us know what
I enjoy the critiques and advice, the way to make it better for we can't make everybody happy, but we can make most people happy, and I want to strive for as that much as possible. So I appreciate everybody. Remember to subscribe. Remember to like. And we'll see you guys in a little bit with our next episode. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. And if my mouse will work, here we go. Cheers, guys.